Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely True Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster, or as Pittsburgh Steelers fans have referred to me, that son of a bitch. And today, I would like to welcome in my co-host, first up from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. How are you?
We going to give out that guy's name and everything so I can attack him?
No.
Oh. So that tells me, Sam Teets, that this is made up. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a Steelers fan. I supported you the other day, so I don't know why they're going at you so hard. But
that's all right. Because Steelers fans are jealous of me. Because I'm a Bengals fan.
Oh, we're not jealous. I don't think so, Mike. I don't
know you are,
that.
Because I've seen Steelers fans before, and really, come on. If you're married to a Steelers fan, she weighs 200 pounds. You know it's true, Sam. Just admit it. You've been to a Steelers game.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, a little something there.
All right. Eric Weddle, 6-time Pro Bowl safety, is retiring. What's this mean to the Rams, Anthony? Other than the fact that they'll need a safety.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually, how much did he make a difference last year? Because they lost guys like LaMarcus Joyner in free agency, and you weren't, from their defensive backfield, they moved off of Talib. I think Weddle was just a veteran Band-Aid on a team that believed, hey, maybe we can make another Super Bowl run. I just think he was a veteran Band-Aid.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, though, there's a lot of veteran Band-Aids with the Rams, Sam.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. They like to bring in guys like Clay Matthews or Aqib Talib or Eric Weddle, and they kind of do that in exchange for their draft picks. If they don't have the draft picks, the high picks, they trade those away to get guys like Jalen Ramsey. So they have a lot of these veteran guys who are in their mid-30s who are close to retiring. And when you do that, you risk injuries. You risk in the middle of the offseason. I do think the Rams are going to be all right moving forward, though, because they can promote Taylor Rapp to a full-time starting job. He started a lot of games last year anyways. And they get John Johnson back, so I'm pretty sure he landed on IR for them last year.
All right, so how about this? Because I'd like to bring up funny, lighthearted stuff, too. The Baltimore Ravens have signed and Andre Smith for his 13th NFL season, Anthony. Does that make you worry more about the Ravens? You there,
How
Anthony?
did we come off to the Rams and get on Andre Smith?
I don't know, because I don't really care about the Rams. I mean, the Rams are what they are, which is a team that's going to struggle for a long time because you got no draft picks. You got a bunch of old guys. So, I mean, seriously, when you look at this, how do you replace these guys?
And the Rams aren't exactly in the best, best scenario in terms of cap room. We might as well just segue into the Ian Rappaport report saying that the Rams are open to all options with Todd Gurley, which is all well and good, but they're 2 years removed from paying him a year too early on that deal. We don't know what's going on with his knee. So Gurley's going to be a player that's going to be hard to move. But if there is a team willing to take that chance, you can get a draft pick for him. Maybe it's not going to be a high one. It's definitely not going to be a 1 or a 2. But you can get something for Todd Gurley.
Well, I mean, career low in rushing this year, 857 yards, a career low in attempts. Sam, like I said, the Rams are in trouble here, and I don't know, especially if you get an 80s contract, I don't know why a team would really want to take a shot on Gurley right now.
Yeah, if you're another team, unless you're I don't even know what situation you would be in to have to take on Gurley because he only averaged 3.8 yards per carry last year. That's down from 4.9 in 2018. So he looked vastly different. He wasn't even close to what he was previously in 2019. and he's getting paid a huge amount of money. It's a 4-year contract worth, was it like $57.5 million? That's what he signed not too long ago. So he signed through the 2023 season. I don't think if you're a team that legitimately wants to contend or build a team moving forward, you're better off drafting a guy than trading for Todd Gurley at this point.
All right. Another team, the Tennessee Titans, have announced that they've hired Jim Haslett as their linebackers coach. Is that a good hire, Sam?
I don't know. I don't really know what you got from the Titans because right now their linebacking core is not as good as you prefer it to be. Because the defensive front is very nice for Tennessee. I like what they do with the defensive front. I like the guy they drafted, Jeffrey Simmons, last year. I like some of their pieces. But that linebacking core is kind of unastounding, I guess you could say. You got a veteran like Cameron Wake. You got Jaylen Brown. Rashawn Evans, who I like, he's pretty good. But you're waiting for someone in there who can really solidify the middle. So I don't know if maybe a new linebacking coach will help them.
All right. Anthony, when you look at it, they're not going with a true defensive coordinator, which means Mike Vrabel's probably going to continue to be heavily involved on the defensive side of the ball. Where do you see the Titans? Because this is a team that was one game from the Super Bowl, and they lose their defensive coordinator, but I think it was kind of common knowledge that this was mainly done by Mike Vrabel anyways. But you could also lose. I mean, Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill could be gone.
Well, isn't Tannehill under contract for another year?
I don't know, Sam.
Yeah, with them, it's really interesting because I think you're definitely keep one of them. And I definitely think you should manage to be a hold on one of them no matter what. But if you're talking about a situation where you lose Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill, it kind of throws your whole offense out of balance because really the offense thrives because you had both options. If you only have one option, you can only run the ball or you can only pass the ball.
Well,
you don't have a backup either. You don't have a backup running back who can take over right away. You don't have a backup quarterback who you believe in. So losing one of those guys really, I think it puts Tennessee back to like a 6 or 7 win team, honestly.
Yeah, they are both free agents. I thought I had seen that Tannehill had a year or an option left, and they don't. But the Tennessee Titans, they're not in terrible. They're not in a terrible situation in terms of cap space. They have about 50. Rounding up to $51 million in cap space, which means they're in the top half of the league. They can re-sign Tannehill. They can re-sign Derrick Henry, and I think they're going to do both.
Do you think they'll do both?
Yeah, I think they'll get both. I do see a situation in which they get both those guys, especially after what they accomplished this past year. And if you're Ryan Tannehill, I don't really know if you're going to walk into a better scenario unless, I don't think you can walk into a better scenario unless you're Ryan Tannehill because you know what you can do with Tennessee right now, especially if you're able to hang on to Derrick Henry. So I think they'll get both the guys back.
Anthony?
Yeah, they have the franchise tag. One of these guys are going to be tagged. I think you lock up Derrick Henry long term. And I think they should tag Ryan Tannehill because we don't know if this Ryan Tannehill 2019 season is an anomaly. We don't know if it's real. And to go pay him somewhat top quarterback money is a little bit premature. Or they're smart and, maybe you sign him now long term just in case Tannehill's going to be legit. But with his past, with his injuries, I just don't know if I'm doing it.
Do you want to do
because
it with
then you're
Derrick
going to
Henry?
set yourself back into another Marcus Mariota situation if you lock up Tannehill for 4 years and he can't stay healthy.
My question is, when you say lock up Derrick Henry to a long-term deal, how long is a long-term deal?
4 years.
Do you really want to lock up a guy that runs the ball the way he does for 4 years?
What's your alternative?
Well, we just talked about it. A guy that runs Go ahead.
They don't have anything. They have Dion Lewis, who is really a situational player, pass-catching back. They don't have anything behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah, but I still think the problem you have here is there could be a major issue. Are you guys both there still?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. We had somebody call in, but I didn't know who it was, so I hung up because you never know when you get a crazy person calling in to talk stuff to Anthony about the Dallas Cowboys, and I draw a line at that because I'm the only one that gets to do that. But when I look at it, my problem with the 4 years for Derrick Henry is this, though. Guys like him don't last that long. And, I mean, he doesn't play 16 games normally, which is fine as long as he's playing 12 or 13 and he's ready for the playoffs. But I think it's a huge risk with both of these guys.
Yeah, I think especially with Henry because we talked about he's a bruising running back who likes to run the ball down the middle, likes to take a lot of hits and bounce off contact. But we just talked about Todd Gurley, who had basically a 2 or 3 year prime section of his career, and now we're questioning whether he's able to continue to play. And we're basically saying he's worth less than a second-round pick at this point. So if you're going to lock up Derrick Henry, you have to be careful with the length and the amount of money you're putting to his contract because you could be attached to a guy who may be in his third and fourth year of that 4-year deal. By the end of that deal, he might not be the same player. He might not even be 1,000 yards.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Huh. You there,
I
Sam?
think Skype's being a little weird.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. It sounded weird. But, yeah, and I think with Tennessee, the other problem is I don't think the offensive line performed to the talent level that they have on that offensive line either, Anthony.
I just think it took a little bit to get going because they opened the year with the 4-game suspension for Taylor Lewan. But they seem to straighten out towards the end of the year. I mean, if you look at some of the holes Derrick Henry had to run through, especially against Baltimore, that line's pretty good. But I think they struggled early without Lewan.
I think I'm comparing them to what they had a couple years ago, where I thought they had, with the Dallas Cowboys, one of the 2 best offensive lines in football. So it may not be a comparison that's fair to me. When you look at the rest of the AFC South, though, I think if you do sign both of those guys, you're probably still the favorite to win this division because I think the Colts are farther away than what people thought they would be a year ago. I think the Texans are due to drop off dramatically because without any help, at some point, Deshaun Watson's not going to be able to carry this team anymore. And, of course, the London Jaguars have issues all over the place.
Yeah, the one team that could potentially compete with Tennessee is Houston. But like you said, Deshaun Watson is really taking the front of that offense for them because that offensive line is pretty bad, and he's taking hits left and right. So at some point, Houston's going to have a problem where Deshaun Watson can't just keep carrying them. And maybe one point where he gets injured where he misses a significant period of time. So I do think if Tennessee gets their guys back, they're the most stable team moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think it takes much to be the most stable team because I think that division has NFC East written all over it for next year, possibly, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what the Colts are going to do with quarterback. There are no guarantees that Jacoby Brissett returns. I think the Colts are a team that can possibly pursue a veteran if they don't believe in Brissett. And I also think Brissett is a contingency plan B or C for Bill Belichick if Brady leaves.
No, I don't think he is. I mean, number one, you'd have to trade for him. And the thing is this, right now, I mean, this may seem crazy since Tom Brady's considered the GOAT. The New England Patriots have a lot more issues than who's going to play quarterback for them right now.
No, they don't. No, go on, Sam.
I was going to say, they have so many pending free agents. It's like the entire – well, most of their star players are guys who are on the final year of their contract. I think Devin McCourty's up there, but he's an aging player anyways. But I think like two or three linebackers are pending free agents. Devin McCourty's a pending free agent. You've got offensive lineman guys who are running up on their deals. You also had some injuries along the offensive line this past year. You do not have a tight end. Your receiving core is very weak, and Julian Edelman is dropping passes who normally catches past year. He's getting up there in age as well. So I think the Patriots actually are in a spot where they're looking at a bad year.
It seems like Skype's giving us problems today, Anthony.
No, it is. It seems like we're hearing somebody else's phone call.
I know. Wonder who it is. Wonder if they're more interesting and entertaining than us. I wish we could hear it better. All right, and I know Sam wants to go back and rehash the 2020 Hall of Fame again, and we're going to go through it here and just tell me if they're a Hall of Famer or not. Bill Cowher, Sam, Hall of Famer or not?
Probably not. I'd say not compared to like the top coaches who are in the Hall of Fame. You think about like guys like Chuck Noll, and that's really what the Hall of Fame is about. It's about those top guys. And in comparison, I'll say Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson, both those guys are not on that level.
I do not agree with that at all. I agree with it on Bill Cowher, but not Jimmy Johnson. I think Jimmy Johnson's a Hall of Fame coach. I hate to say good things about the Dallas Cowboys, but I really think Jimmy Johnson's run was stopped by an arrogant owner. He did get Miami to the playoffs after the run with the Cowboys, but that Cowboys team is a team that was terrible. It was probably 4 or 5 years away from being able to win when Jimmy Johnson took over. And if I remember right, Anthony, was it the second year where they went 7-9? Troy Aikman got hurt. Babe Laufenberg had to play the last 2 games. They could have been in the playoffs in his second year if Troy Aikman stays healthy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if it wasn't, like you said, for Barry Switzer, they could still be winning Super Bowls right now.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't. They absolutely could not, Anthony. Stop it. But because eventually Jimmy Johnson would have retired to go hang out and fish with Bill Belichick. But what do you think? Is Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cowher, are they Hall of Fame coaches? Anthony?
Jimmy, yes. I think what Jimmy did, from what he was doing in college, he comes to the NFL, turns around really a 1-15 franchise, which was what they were in 1989, and a couple of years later, they're winning Super Bowls. The Herschel Walker trade was blockbuster. I mean, Jimmy made a great impact on the league. Didn't really do much in where he ended up in Miami.
Yeah.
Couldn't get anything going there. But when you win a couple of Super Bowls like that, and they were, at least one of those teams have to be in a conversation for one of the best NFL teams ever assembled. Yeah, Jimmy's in the Hall of Fame. As far as Cowher, I think we talked about Cowher a little bit when he initially got in. I'm on the fence with Bill Cowher, and I don't know why. I think he's likable, and I think the likability factor is what gets some of these guys in.
Well, it is, and being on TV, but I'm just going to go with
he shouldn't. Because he was only the second coach in that franchise.
Second coach of the franchise.
Right? Like, Pittsburgh's only had, a handful of coaches?
No. Their first 40 years were littered with failed coaches, probably 20 or 30 of them. It was since Chuck Noll, they've only had 3 coaches. And, I mean, Chuck Noll is the reason the Pittsburgh Steelers are America's team.
Yeah, I mean, they had, I think, 16 coaches total in their history.
Yeah, now I'm looking at this, yeah.
They've had a lot.
Yeah.
They've had a lot. It's just that, the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers really starts when Chuck Noll shows up. People try to forget everything before that.
Yeah, because you even had a period in the early 40s where they were called the Steagles, and they combined the Steelers and the Eagles for a year. And that team had a chance to make the playoffs, but got beat the last game of this regular season. But I think Chuck Noll is why the Pittsburgh Steelers became the biggest NFL team in the United States. I mean, if you look at it, it's not a shot at the Cowboys, but Pittsburgh is definitely more America's team than Dallas is, and that's for the guy that called me an SOB because I'm always ripping the Steelers. Because the one thing I do know is no matter where the Pittsburgh Steelers play, it seems like half the stadium is filled with black and gold and waving those dumbass towels. It's just true. I mean, when Pittsburgh went to Dallas a couple of years ago, it looked like a Pittsburgh Steeler home game, Anthony.
Yeah. No, those fans travel extremely well, just like Packers fans.
Well, I don't think it's that they travel well. I think what it was is in the 70s, and Sam may be able to speak more to this than I can, even though he's not old enough to remember the 70s than I am, but you had a lot of those steel mills closed down, and all those people migrated and went other places, especially the Arizonas and the Floridas, and you've got a built-in fan base in almost every city because of that, Sam.
Yeah, because when all those businesses were shutting down, people had to go find jobs, and it ended up that people were moving around the country trying to find new places to live, and they went to areas that were developing all over the place. So now when you find Steelers fans like tucked away in the corner of different states, they had to spread out.
Well, and the thing that stood out to me there was, Sam, that Anthony admitted the Pittsburgh Steelers are America's team.
I did not admit to that, number one.
Yeah, you did, because wait a second. You can't be America's team when the Pittsburgh Steelers show up.
Well. I said they travel
when the Pittsburgh Steelers show up in Dallas, half the crowd is Pittsburgh Steelers. That makes the Pittsburgh Steelers America's team because they're also Dallas's team in all actuality. It's agreed then. All right, let's go to Steve Sabol, where I think there's no doubt Steve Sabol's a Hall of Famer, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the impact that NFL films had on the NFL and also sports in general, they were the innovators of what we see from a lot of, we see it in baseball. Anytime we see a close-up of a ball getting hit out or a ball getting thrown, that was Steve and Ed Sabol. They invented that.
All right.
And I don't think the NFL is where it is without NFL films.
Well, also gambling doesn't hurt in fantasy football, but yeah, I think NFL films was huge because I remember watching, I think at like midnight on a Friday night when I was younger in the 70s, watching the NFL game in a week or, this week in pro football. I remember watching all that stuff, and I mean, sometimes I'd take naps just so I could stay up and watch it. Sam, I assume you agree on Steve Sabol.
Yeah, I agree there because, like I said, NFL Films was really what helped spread the game a little bit because it helped make it more available to people. People could see football more, and it portrayed it in a light that sometimes they didn't get to see in the past.
All right, Paul Tagliabue, Sam.
I mean, they're probably going to put every commissioner in the Hall of Fame. That's probably what's going to happen from here on out. I just see football doing that, but I can't tell you, I really can't point to a moment in Paul Tagliabue's career and say, that's it. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. I really can't do that for the commissioner.
Well, I think that the league did grow unparalleled for the 17 years he was there. I think he was more of a league think guy instead of just specific teams. The league expanded to 32 teams. They had 2 decades of labor peace where you didn't have any strikes, where if you remember before he came in, 2 strikes in the previous decade. 20 new stadiums where they fleeced local communities and made them pay for it. I think he established the NFL as a global brand with operations in overseas markets. And then the other one here to me that I think was huge, Anthony, was he created a league-wide internet network plus the NFL TV network.
Right.
But I still don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame. But go ahead. I just don't like commissioners. All right, so we'll all agree since Anthony didn't answer quick enough. George Young, Hall of Famer or no, Anthony?
George Young, owner of the Giants or former owner of the Giants?
He was general manager.
General manager.
I'm on the fence with George Young. I think he got in because of the NFL 100, the 100th anniversary. I think he's somebody where he would still be waiting to get in if it wasn't the year 100.
I disagree. I think George Young is definitely a Hall of Famer. I mean, this is a guy, the New York Giants hadn't been to the playoffs since 1963. He took over as the GM. I think he took over as the GM around 1979 or so. And what he did with the New York Giants was he's the only man to ever be the NFL Executive of the Year 5 times, 84, 86, 90, 93, 97. He's the guy who hired Bill Parcells. He's the guy who built that Giants team from nothing to a perennial contender, multiple Super Bowl wins in the 80s, which the Dallas Cowboys, supposedly America's team, didn't have. But he drafted Phil Simms from Morehead State in 1979. Simms ended up playing one of the greatest Super Bowls a quarterback's ever played in 21. He drafted Lawrence Taylor, who I think is the most impactful defensive player ever in NFL history. And, of course, Parcells he hired, Belichick, the defensive coordinator. They earned 8 playoff berths, won 2 Super Bowls. And prior to Young's arrival, they were terrible, Sam. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he deserves the gain. They had 7 10-win seasons under him. And like you said, before he showed up, they weren't winning anything. They had like 4 wins or 6 wins. They were like 4 and 6 win seasons before he showed up. So they weren't going anywhere fast. And then he comes in. They draft Phil Simms. They draft Lawrence Taylor. They hire Bill Parcells. And suddenly this is a team that's winning multiple Super Bowls in the course of the decade. So I do think when you put everything together, he has a Hall of Fame resume.
All right, Harold Carmichael, Sam.
No, not Harold Carmichael. I don't see Harold Carmichael being a Hall of Famer. I think it's more of like a fan thing because he's beloved for being that tall receiver. He's beloved for what he did with the Eagles. But I don't know if I know for the fact that he's not on the same level as the other players who are in the Hall. He's not on the same league as guys like Jerry Rice and Randy Moss and Terrell Owens and those guys.
Anthony, Harold Carmichael.
Is he, when I think about Eagles receivers in that era, Mike Quick comes to mind. Not so much Carmichael as much.
Mike Quick? Really? I think Harold Carmichael's a Hall of Famer. I think if you look at his stats compared to the guys who are in the Hall of Fame that played in the 1970s, he's got 590 receptions, almost 9,000 yards, 79 touchdowns. It's almost double what Lynn Swan's got. If you look at his numbers, he had a team high in 1973. He had 67 receptions for 1,116 yards. He was Megatron before anybody else was. That 1973 season, 12 catches, 187 yards. 1979, 11 touchdowns receiving. And remember this, Randy Moss and Terrell Owens, we don't even know if they could have played under the rules that Harold Carmichael had to play under in the 1970s.
But is it?
Well, yeah, but if you're using Lynn Swan as a comparison, that's a pretty low bar statistically. But at the same point, I don't.
Well, give me the statistics of other guys. I mean, John Stallworth, is he a Hall of Famer?
All right, point taken, Mike. You win.
Yeah, John Stallworth's a Hall of Famer, and his numbers aren't as good. What I'm saying is the NFL, Anthony, was completely different back then. And also, he set the NFL record for the time with 127 straight games with a reception, 1972 to 1980. And it was a while before anybody broke that. I think Steve Largent broke
you're
it
much
a decade
more
later.
in depth with some of these historical players than I am. But
I know, that's why we do it.
Is it fair to say that that today's players couldn't play under those rules?
Yeah, I think it is fair that you could say we don't know. I never said that they couldn't. I said
like
could they?
Change things.
But also this, Harold Carmichael at 6'8", the way he could run, could you imagine him in today's offenses? And the other thing is this, and my discussion is this. I always say the greatest players that ever lived should be in the Hall of Fame, nobody less. I think Harold Carmichael is one of the greatest wide receivers that ever lived, and I'll leave the argument with this. He was named to the NFL's All-Decade team in the 1970s, which means he was considered for a decade one of the top 4 wide receivers. Okay. All right, next up, Jim Covert, Chicago Bears. Anthony.
Pass.
You can't pass. Is he a Hall of Famer or not?
I don't know enough about him.
All right. You watch. Sam will act like he does, even though Sam's 10 years younger than you because he's only 12. Sam, Jim Covert.
All right, so here's the thing with Jim Covert. He had 2 years with the Bears in 85 and 86 where he was the first-team All-Pro. And when he had those great years and they were running with Walter Payton and when they were winning games and stuff like that, that put him on another level for a very short period of time. My issue is we don't see a ton of guys, especially offensive linemen, who have short careers like that, or not short careers. Well, it was a short career, but short careers and short primes make the Hall of Fame. So my issue is he had really 2 good years, and he only played for, I think, 8 or 9 seasons. And he only started the full season 3 times. So I was leaning towards no.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. And he did make the NFL's all-decade team, but that's because he was a Chicago Bear. My perfect comparison is this. Tony Baselli is one of the 3 or 4 best offensive linemen I've ever seen, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame. And I think his career lasted a year longer than Jimbo Covert. If you know what I mean.
When Tony Baselli was playing, he was arguably the best offensive lineman in football at the time.
Yeah,
And
I don't even think it was arguable. I mean, to me, Tony Baselli is up there with Anthony Munoz and Larry Allen. That's how good Tony Baselli was.
I think the only comparison was that Larry Allen played a little bit during Tony Baselli's prime. I think that was the only main competition he had. But I totally agree. His prime was longer than Jimbo Covert, so I think he should be in. I don't think Jimbo Covert should be in.
All right, I'm going to skip Bobby Dillon because neither one of you know who it is probably. So we're going to go to Cliff Harris. Anthony, Dallas Cowboy. Cliff Harris, does he belong in the Hall of Fame?
I think so. Played free safety. They say he was one of the best in his era, hard-hitting guy. I would say so, looking at his resume.
All right, Sam?
A couple of Super Bowls.
He did make the Pro Football Hall of Fame first team All-Decade team in the 1970s. So he's got that. When we talked about guys who make the All-Decade team, sometimes it's a good indicator, sometimes it isn't. But he was up there with Ken Houston, who's also in the Hall of Fame, I believe. So I could see it. I'm not going to argue it. I wouldn't say no. But if we're talking about like the truly elite safeties in the NFL history, I don't think he's a truly elite guy. But based on the criteria for the Hall of Fame now, I think you could justify putting him in.
Yeah, I think under the criteria he should be in. Go ahead.
I mean, just looking at the resume, the leader of the Cowboys advanced to the postseason in every single year of his career but one. 7 division titles, 21 playoff games, 7 NFC championship games, 5 Super Bowls. Yeah, you got to put this guy in.
Well, the other thing about it, you don't have to put him in, Anthony, just because he's a Dallas Cowboy. But I did say I thought he should be in. But also, he was a pretty good punt returner, too, and kick returner. He wasn't just a safety. I mean, he was a hell of a football player, and he changed a lot of games. All right.
I wish I was alive for those dominant years of the Cowboys, damn it.
It wasn't really dominant because outside of 72 and 77, they were usually getting smacked down by truly legendary teams. Winston Hill, Anthony, do you pass again?
Winston Hill. Jets?
Yeah. All right, Sam, Winston Hill.
No, I think Winston Hill, and if you look at him compared to some other players along the offensive line from that time period, I think you can make the argument he gets in. He's a Super Bowl champion. He won the AFL championship. He went to 8 Pro Bowls, which I know we don't say Pro Bowls mean a lot, but they probably meant a little bit more before we let everyone vote in the Pro Bowl and just let the fans go wild and pick whoever they wanted. But
well, actually, when you look at Pro Bowls, don't look at Pro Bowls. Look how many times they were named All-Pro.
Well, yeah, no, the All-Pro selections is really what matters. The issue with Winston Hill is that when he played, it's a lot harder to keep track because the All-Pro selections were done by so many different news networks or so many different media networks. That's hard to see exactly how many he made. But from what I can tell, he's a pretty dominant offensive lineman during his time. I just don't know if we would say he was one of the best.
Yeah, he's not a Hall of Famer. And I know I got some friends that played for the Jets back then that give me crap about it, but I watched him play, and he wasn't no Anthony Munoz. Next up, Alex Karras. Sam?
I missed you in the last part. You said Alex Karras?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I think, for what he did during the prime of his career. He was kicked out for 1 year for gambling. I think it's kind of ridiculous a little bit if we look back at some of the other players who I'm sure were gambling and doing just the same thing.
Well, him and Paul Hornung got caught. There's a difference. If you know what I mean.
But I think he deserves to be in because he was during those prime years a very good player and one of the best in the NFL. I don't know if they kept him out for this long because of the gambling issue or because of the 1-year gambling suspension, but when I look at his resume, it looks like he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
All right, Anthony, agree?
Yeah, I think you're going to put Karras in. I think he only missed one game in his entire career, 12 seasons. Doesn't have an extensive playoff resume. I think he's only been to the playoffs once, but he was one of the more dominant players of his era, All-Pro and Pro Bowler 4 times apiece, 8-time second-team All-Pro. I think you get him in.
All-decade team in the 60s. He's one of the greatest defensive tackles that ever lived, and it was a joke that he wasn't put in almost immediately upon retirement. Donnie Shell, Sam.
This is the guy I love to go back and watch play because I think everyone overlooked other great players on that defense. For a 5-year span, he was one of the best safeties in the NFL. He was the first-team All-Pro 3 times, and he finished his career with 51 interceptions. He spent his entire career at Pittsburgh, and during that time, they won the 4 Super Bowls. So I think he belongs in. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
All right, Anthony.
I mean, yeah, he was with the Steelers during their real heyday, 1974. I think they signed him. He's been through all the Super Bowls, 51 career interceptions, a couple of touchdowns off of fumble recoveries, first-team All-Pro 3 times. Yeah, I think he has the resume to put him in.
Yeah, he has the resume to put him in. 51 interceptions. Great player. He was overshadowed because Mel Blount, I think, was the greatest cornerback in NFL history, and I think he got a lot of it. The one thing I don't understand is how L.C. Greenwood's still not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that one blows my mind. Sam, can you explain that to me,
L.C. Greenwood, right?
Yeah, I mean, how can L.C. Greenwood not be a Hall of Famer?
I don't know. He was actually more sacks in his career than Joe Green. So I don't know what you're looking at if you're a Hall of Fame, if you're voting. I mean, he's the guy who
the difference between him and Joe Green was this, though. Joe Green had an injury around 1974 or so. Mean Joe Green may have been the greatest defensive lineman to ever play the game his first 3 years. He had a couple small injuries that kind of added up. He was never really the same, even though he was still dominant. I think Mean Joe Green was more dominant. But, I mean, with a name like L.C. Greenwood, you got to be in the Hall of Fame, wouldn't you think, Anthony?
Oh, but for namesake alone, absolutely.
Hell yeah. L.C. Greenwood. It sounds like either you slept with the wrong woman or you get the name of a Hall of Famer. Nobody got my
joke, I don't
understand. All right, guys. We're going to have to wrap this up because I've got another show in 20 minutes, a boxing show. And then I've got a Xavier basketball show after that. I may do an XFL preview show tonight if either one of you guys are interested in coming on.
You know more. I've read your article, Mike. I did read your article, but I don't know if I know enough.
Well, the only thing I know is what's in the article, so hopefully it'll be enough. But, all right, guys. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at The FF Face Off. We can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms. And for the record, I thought we were going to cover the modern-day Hall of Famers today.
We did.
Not the.
We did. We didn't cover Max Speedy or any of those guys.
No, but, the modern-day players.
That is modern, but to me, Winston Hill and Donnie Shell are modern-day players.
I was talking about Atwater, Bruce Palomalu's act. I thought we were going to talk about that, the snubs and who should have been in and out from that era.
I know, but Steve Atwater should have been in a long time ago, and I think all those guys you just mentioned, Troy Polamalu, everybody knows he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the 5 best safeties that ever played a game. So, I really, just the list I pulled up was the old guys.
But there were a lot of snubs. There
but there's always going to be a lot of snubs. Snubs are why a guy like Donnie Shell's in his 28th year before he gets in. And we will do a show.
Didn't you say Hines Ward was a Hall of Fame receiver?
He should be.
Yesterday.
Is he?
Should be, but he's not. Okay.
I don't think he is he? Sam?
No, he's not.
No.
Huh? But you said he's the Hall of Fame receiver the other day.
Yeah, because he is a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah, I think he is. It's just I don't think he's going to get in for a while. He played more. He was a great run blocker. He wasn't playing in an offense that prioritized throwing the ball at the time.
No, my claim is this. He's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. I didn't say he's in the Hall of Fame, Anthony.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But no, I would like to, the modern era semifinalists. I'm looking at this. I'd like to discuss this one of the shows that we don't have much to talk about. Let's do that list.
Well, it's the time of year where we could probably do it on our next show if you want. Yeah, we can come back and do another show tonight at 6 if you want. Okay. I like talking about that stuff.
Because I'll tell you what, seeing, Steve Tasker, I think you can make the case that he should be in for what he's contributed.
Yeah, I can agree. Maybe not. We'll see. Heck, you guys free at 6 o'clock? We can do this. Post it tomorrow.
Yeah, I should be free at 6.
You free, Anthony?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, jeez. The guy that wants to do it, now he's not sure yet. He's got to ask his wife what he's doing later today now, obviously.
I have my son.
Huh?
I have a 5-year-old.
Yeah? Well, put him on the show. Is he a Cowboys fan?
Not yet.
Yeah. We'll try to keep him from being one so he can see his team win a Super Bowl someday. That was mean. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up. You can find Anthony at the FF Faceoff. You can find Sam. What was your Twitter again, Sam? At Sam Teets 5.
Sam _ Teets 33 on Twitter.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up. For Anthony Cervino, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.